All right, it's almost here. Super Bowl Sunday, just days away. And it's time for me to go through, give you my breakdown of the big game, a rematch of Super Bowl 57. We got the Chiefs, we got the Eagles, and ultimately, who I think will be bringing home that Lombardi trophy on Sunday. Let's hop on into it. All right, when we first start off, let me look at my key matchups of the game. I think there are two really kind of critical areas in this game that I think are going to determine the outcome of it. First and foremost, it may not be the sexiest, it may not be everybody's favorite, but I'm going to be looking at the line play in this game. A huge key to this game, I think, is what the Chiefs' ability is to slow down the Eagles' front four. Philadelphia has been dominating teams all year. Vic Fangio doesn't really bring a whole lot of blitzes out there. They get pressure with just those four guys. Jalen Carter maybe single-handedly won that Rams game for them to close it out in the divisional round for Philadelphia. And the Chiefs' offensive line has really struggled this year, in particular at the tackle positions. Jawan Taylor really just hasn't been that good since signing him, and it's been a complete revolving door at the left tackle spot. Patrick Mahomes' blind side, it's not been good. Now, Joe Thuney slid on over there from guard, and he kind of solidified things. He's been really solid out there at left tackle, but that's not the key to this Eagles defensive front. The Eagles really thrive on the interior. Like I said, Jalen Carter single-handedly winning playoff games, might be the best new interior young defensive lineman in football. He's just an absolute game wrecker of the mold of a certain Aaron Donald. Not the same build, not the same size, but just reminds me of it, that physical, nasty gameplay in the middle, can shut down the run, can get after the quarterback. He can wreak havoc, but this is a strength of the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. They have Creed Humphrey anchoring the middle of that line. We have Trey Smith over there at guard. Now, if they're able to get some stability, maybe we slide in an injured DJ Humphries back into that left tackle position. We slide Thuney back over to guard. This could be a real area where the Chiefs can excel. They haven't been able to run the football really well, and it's not like you can really run against Philadelphia anyway. Philadelphia tops in the league in the run defense, averaging like 100 yards a game given up, and that's about what the Chiefs average on offense running the football. There's really been no consistency running the football. Even with Isaiah Pacheco back, he just really hasn't been the same kind of guy. But Philadelphia really doesn't get too much of a pass rush off those edge. Now, Nolan Smith's had a really good postseason for the Eagles, but you don't feel that kind of elite pass rush heat off the edge with those bad tackles. So if those tackles are able to do enough, kick some guys out, you could see Mahomes sliding up and doing that Mahomes thing, rolling out, chunking off big runs, and really kind of moving the sticks in ways that Philadelphia is not going to be ready for. Now, Mahomes also matches up really well against this Vic Fangio defense. I think he's 9-0 or 7-0 against a Vic Fangio defense in his career. He loves going against Vic Fangio. They don't bring a whole lot of blitzes. They just play coverage. They can switch from zone to man, but Mahomes will pick that apart. He thinks him and Andy Reid have the secret sauce, but he has to have time for him. Brandon Graham coming back for the Eagles potentially, coming off, I believe it was a torn pectoral for him. He's been out since week 12. He's coming back in there. He's probably going to play. This could be a big X factor for them. He was having a monster season at 36 years young for the Eagles before he got hurt. He was tearing teams up. This is huge. So key matchup, first and foremost, Chiefs offensive line versus this Eagles defensive front. Okay, and now my next critical matchup that I think is going to be a huge key to this game. It's probably the one you're not necessarily thinking here. What are the Eagles' second-tier skill position players going to do against this Chiefs defense? We know about A.J. Brown as your number one wide receiver. I think Trent McDuffie is going to do a pretty good job against him. Saquon Barkley is going to do Saquon Barkley things. Look, you have been able to run against the Chiefs a little bit. They were really good in the regular season, but kind of up in the postseason. They're averaging 148 yards per game given up. That's about 40 to 50 yards higher than they were in the regular season against okay backs like Joe Mixon's fine. James Cook is nice. Saquon Barkley's on a whole nother planet right now. The Eagles are rushing for over 227 yards a game per game in the postseason in 3 games. Now, they didn't play the best defenses in the world in the playoffs, especially against the run, but it's a phenomenal running unit. This is the key to this Eagles offense. Now, Steve Spagnuolo having 2 weeks to prepare for this rushing attack. I think we're going to see more stability from that Chiefs front, and I really think they're going to dare Jalen Hurts to beat them. The Chiefs aren't necessarily going to play a lot of man defense. They're going to switch up coverages. They run a ton of blitzes. They're not going to leave themselves on an island out there with A.J. Brown. I don't think. They do have Trent McDuffie, who's one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. So the real key here is what are the second level guys going to do for Philadelphia? I'm talking about Devontae Smith. I'm talking about Dallas Goedert. Jalen Hurts is going to be dared to beat this team with his arm. I don't think the Eagles are going to be able to move Hurts a lot. Maybe they'll have some designed runs, but him breaking down, getting out of the pocket, I just don't think the Chiefs are going to allow that to happen. He's going to have to beat them with his arms. And in the last Super Bowl matchup they had, it's his highest passing performance ever in a playoff game. Over 300 yards in that game. He was really, really good in that matchup. So I think that's going to be the key to this game. And we've seen a lot of up and down Jalen Hurts. The good thing is he did have his best game passing in the postseason last round against the Commanders. So it's going to be really interesting. The Chiefs have struggled to cover tight ends this year. Dallas Goedert leading the Eagles in receiving in the postseason. He's kind of his go-to guy. He tends to find the correct matchups for them. If the Eagles do struggle to run the football, which I don't think they're necessarily going to do, I think we're still going to see a very productive day from Saquon. I'm thinking in that 115 and a touchdown range for Saquon, maybe 120 and 2 touchdowns. I'd be really shocked if he's under 100 yards. Saquon's going to get his, but there is some concern that Kellen Moore and this Eagles play calling gets away from the run game. So I think a critical matchup here is if KC can stop this run, if they force Jalen Hurts to pass, what are my guys, Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, going to do against maybe the not most skilled secondary unit in the league? But Steve Spagnuolo has said he thinks this is the smartest defensive unit he has ever coached. All the guys know exactly what their assignments are, what they're supposed to be doing, and that's pretty much how this defense works. So a critical matchup here. Look for our second-tier receiver and our tight end to have a potentially big impact on the result of this game for the Eagles. Okay, now overall, let's break things down across the board. Patrick Mahomes is clearly the big X factor in this game, I should say. He is the best player in this game. He is significantly better than Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts tends to win football games. He has played good in big spots, but we've just seen some real stinkers from him, especially in the postseason. His passing yard numbers are kind of crazy in his wins. Prior to Washington, he hadn't thrown over 155 yards, I don't think, in a win in the postseason. So it's just kind of bizarre how the Eagles can operate with him. Patrick Mahomes, no matter what the situation is, no matter what the obstacle is, he just finds a way to score points, move the football, and wins these close games. That's what the real X factor is. Coaching, I think, is a huge edge for the Kansas City Chiefs on offense. In particular, Andy Reid calling the plays is the head man. They have the Super Bowl experience. Nick Sirianni might end up doing something really, really stupid. And I'm just not 100% sold on Kellen Moore as the play caller. He likes to throw the football and he can get away from that run game. And I think Philly has to stay committed to the run game. Even if Saquon Barkley isn't chunking off 50, 60-yard runs, he's going to get his. He's going to have a solid day. They're going to be able to run the football. And it is a little bit of a concern. Like I said, Kansas City giving up a little bit more rushing in the postseason, and it's maybe not been as consistent, but it's been a couple of big plays, big chunk plays. The problem is a 20-yard run from James Cook is a 65-yard touchdown for Saquon Barkley. So that's going to be a critical area where the Eagles have to take advantage if they're going to be able to score points. I think we're going to see a little bit more scoring than most people think in this game. I think defense kind of goes out the window in the second half, in the fourth quarter. Now, the first quarters tend to be a little bit slow, potentially a 3-0, 0-0. But the last time these two teams met, both teams went right down the field and scored a touchdown really easy. Obviously, Travis Kelce, what is he going to give against us? The young secondary of the Philadelphia Eagles has been really good. Quinion Mitchell, excellent corner. CJ Gardner-Johnson, Darius Slay, really solid in the back end. Also, so you have two solid corners there. It's going to be up to rookie Cooper DeJean and the linebackers now. Now, Zach Bonds had an excellent season. Gonna be a defensive player. He is a defensive player of the year nominee. Probably not gonna win it, I don't think, but they're missing Nakobe Dean, their other linebacker. So now it's looking at a rookie and a backup to have to deal with Travis Kelce. How much is left in the Travis Kelce tank? I do not know. He was really bad against Buffalo, but we just know it. In these big games in the Super Bowl, Travis Kelce can feast. So another critical spot for Kansas City. Overall, though, Philadelphia has a far significant advantage in their roster. Philadelphia's team is probably the best team in football. They're great at the offensive line, first or second in the league, really good at receiver, 2 top 30 guys, probably a solid tight end. Excellent defense. The defense, this is one of the turnarounds ever. Their secondary was one of the worst secondaries in football last season, and they've turned it around to be the number 1 overall unit on defense this year. Like, this Eagles team was so bad on defense. They were good up front. They didn't even really get after the quarterback much. Number 1 total defense, number 1 in scoring, number 1 in yards this year. So they've just been an absolute house out there. So what's the big weakness of this team? It's the quarterback position. It's the coaching. Now, I love that the Eagles do have this experience. They were in this game 2 years ago with a good chunk of this roster, especially on the offense, and that's who's going to have to win this game for the Eagles. The defense is going to do their job. We've seen historically that number 1 defenses do a good job in the Super Bowl, especially against a Kansas City offense that doesn't feel quite as potent. They can't really run the football, but it's not like you can run the football against the Eagles much anyway. You have a rookie leading receiver in Xavier Worthy. You got guys like Juju Smith-Schuster. This is maybe a spot for DeAndre Hopkins to have a couple of big catches. Maybe for the love of God, Hollywood Brown can hold on to the football. That is just not a great unit out there. Now, special teams, big edge to the Chiefs. Harrison Butker, as reliable as can be. Jake Elliott's been really hit or miss this year. Punting's been kind of iffy from Braden Mann. So special teams is an edge to the Chiefs there. And special teams tends to always play a factor in these games. If you go back to the game 2 years ago, the big Kadarius Toney punt return, longest punt return in Super Bowl history, kind of flipped that game on its head, got the Chiefs that victory. So with that being said, Eagles have the better overall team. Chiefs have the better quarterback. Chiefs have the better coach. It's going to be a really, really tight football game, I think, in this one. We're talking about hairs here, splitting these two teams. These were probably 2 of the 3 or 4 best teams the entire season. The Eagles felt like the first or second best team, whoever you talk to, depending in the NFC. A lot of people were on the Lions train. I was a lot more on the Eagles train this season, just watching them play after those first 4 weeks. I mean, if you look back to, they were 2-2 after 4 weeks, and it looked like they were going to fire Nick Sirianni. Obviously, the Chiefs have won 17 straight one-score games. Like, that just doesn't happen. And people say you can't be this lucky. It's not luck, man. It's a skill to win one-score games. We talked about it this season. It is an art. It is a skill, and the Chiefs are the absolute very best at it. They lost 1 regular season game where they played their starters, and that was to Buffalo. They went 15-1 prior to resting everybody the final week. Haven't looked maybe the sharpest in the world in the postseason. But they're kind of been building up to this. They were okay in their first divisional round. They were pretty good against Buffalo in the AFC Championship game. Now I'm expecting their best performance in the biggest spot. So here is ultimately the final question. What are we going to see? Are we going to see history and a three-peat, the first ever in NFL history for the Kansas City Chiefs? Or are we going to get redemption, revenge, payback? We haven't really seen many rematches in a short window in the modern era of the Super Bowl, but we have this opportunity here. The Eagles, can they avenge that heartbreaking loss in last year's Super Bowl? It's time. I'm going to give it to you. Here's my official pick. Roll the clip.
You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
I am inevitable. Iron Man. You should have gone for the head.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. What an incredible NFL season it has been. We still have a game to play, but truly none of it would be possible without all of you guys. So I want to thank you guys From the bottom of my heart, you guys are the absolute best. If you haven't already, drop a quick like on this video, subscribe to the channel. We got daily sports content. If you're new here, help support the channel, sign up for a channel membership. You get all sorts of access to cool and exclusive perks. Helps me, allows me to keep making this great content for you guys every single day. Again, like, subscribe, and share.